a roll call, please. Dr. Cable. Present. Ms. Carlina. Present. Preston Castile. Ms. Coleman. Present. Ms. Gaines. Ms. Gaines may join us virtually for information purposes only, just for the record. Ms. Hooper. Present. Ms. Lawson. Present. Mr. Myers.
Present.
Ms. Miller. Present. Ms. Oken. Mr. Salter.
Present.
You do have a form. Wonderful. In terms of introduction and announcements.
We have lots of new team members, and that's a great thing for LOSFA, because we have folks with a lot of new skill and new talent to be able to complement the multitude of talent that we already have. So we're going to go through, and the division directors respectively will introduce their. First of all, I'll do this one, because I'm not sure if Emily is able to join us this morning. Okay, Emily, of course, you'll see as the first explanation, she's a medical student at LSU Health Sciences Center in Shreveport, and she is the newly elected president of the executive council there, which is their form of student government. And so Emily is our Council of Student Body President's member, which is very, very important because that helps us always have the practitioner perspective as well as the student perspective. So if Emily's out there, welcome them. And next, Jamie, I've already said that we're very glad that Jamie's here from LSU, and definitely being assistant director of financial aid and scholarships at LSU. Again, understands working with students and just lends a huge amount of talent and perspective to our board, and we are grateful for each of you. Old friend, not being old as in age, but just we go way back. Mr. Salter, and I just have a habit of saying Representative Salter because he served and represented us all very well as Speaker of the House. Has been on our commission before, and just not only a great man, a great friend, but a great champion of anything to do with students. And so we welcome you to this board. All right, and now we have our staff.
Yeah, so we have a new member of our CAST division, Destiny Moore. She is one of our new digital media specialists, so she will be our digital storyteller for the agency. So helping us to create engaging content for social media and other platforms, working with technical support on meetings, and then working with our design and communications team. So we can get information out to students, parents, members of the legislature, our counselors, our virtual aid partners, and our college access partners as well. So she has comes to us with a good background in marketing communications. Her Bachelor of Arts in Mass Communication from Southern, and then before she joined us, she worked for a nonprofit in education, the Federal Credit Union, East Stafford Council on Aging. And was the campus brand manager for Max, formerly HBO Max. And she has already been cranking out content that we'll be using for our Go FAFSA campaign. So we are very, very glad to have Destiny here.
So is Chelsea? All right, so we had a meeting that we didn't know we had. That Boston was invited to at 10. So Ebony Holmes and Lavonia Malvo, we met real quick, and they are representing LOSFA at a task force. So they're doing, we're going to do double duty. So welcome to Chelsea, our comprehensive advising officers. For those of you that are new to our board, we have tiers of services where we have almost like the triage when you go to an emergency room. So we have intake and assessment officers that do phone. And then we have outreach coordinators that will handle a case that needs a little bit of research, but not a long-term bit of hand-holding. And then we have our comprehensive advising officers that is really a case management approach to working with students that involves the issue of the day as well as any holistic services. And Chelsea comes to us from as a comprehensive advising officer, and so she will be doing that. So welcome us. And while we're speaking of that, Kelly is Kelly here. All right. Kelly comes to us from KIP, and many of you are familiar with the college access work that KIP has been doing as well. So we're very excited to add Kelly's skill set along with Chelsea's as comprehensive advising officers. Trudy, I know that you're like smart. Okay, all right. And so you're like, we have a lot of comprehensive advising officers. We have a lot of people that we serve. And so we are able, thanks to the legislature and the Board of Regents, to be able to round out our team of comprehensive advising officers. And Trudy brings us skills from Swella in financial aid, as well as she understands the admissions side. So welcome to Trudy. And now we're coming to our newest unit at LOSFA.
We're going to explain it later, but we have a new unit called RBI, Research and Business Intelligence, and Vicus is our newest hire for that unit. And he is coming to us from Board of Regents. He understands all of their data sets, and we're going to figure out how to merge all of our data, all of Regents data, all of any other data we can get, or orders, anything else we can find, the federal government, and see how we can show, along with all the other people, our story and explain how we help students and what we can do to make it better. Because has a master's and a doctorate in computer science, so we are quite excited to have our team.
Good morning, I'm Alex Brown, and I would like to introduce Ethan Mason. Ethan is a new IT application programmer analyst with LOSFA. His focus right now is on FP&A programs. He come to us from a short stint, but one as well with the state with DCFS. He has his degree from Southeastern Louisiana, and he focused on concentrated in. We're happy to have him.
And while she is staying, stand up again. We have sad news for us, but very good news for Ms. Brown. As one of my church members says, she is moving on to 6 Saturdays and a Sunday. We always have
I looked it up actually. The day that we announced your new hire, May 19th at the board. Was my first board meeting, and I've been here since May 2004. And so I've had 20 years with LOSFA, all my state service with LOSFA. But so August 3rd is when, which is a Saturday, which will be my first Saturday of the 6 Saturdays. Or 5 Saturdays, or 6 Saturdays and a Sunday. Yeah, I'm looking forward to spending time with my family and my grandkids, and they keep adding. I just had one last week. So I'm looking forward to my.
Very exciting meeting today. Lots of new people, retirement. We have a whole lot of board members here today. We're doing pretty good. All right, at this time, we need an approval of the minutes. Or so to review them. I have a motion for approval of the minutes. Dan, you have a second. Brad, Myers, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Nays. Motion carries. We're now to public comment. Is there any public comment?
There's no comment.
Sounds like the trial.
Any in the room? All right, now we're on to program updates. We'll bring a table. Any comment?
Morning, I'm Terry Underwood and the Director of START Programs. For those of you that are new with us, START Programs encompasses the START Saving Program, which is a college saving, START K-12, which is of course kindergarten through 12th grade, and Louisiana ABLE, which is a savings program for disabled individuals that does not interfere with their SSI or SSI. As you can tell, these are our main numbers. We serviced over 84,000 accounts and have $1.5 billion in assets deposited. Right now, our main business right now, and everyone's on that is, right now. That's what we have to report now. Everyone's on deck with that. Anyone have any questions concerning the programs?
They're really proud of Billion with the B.
Yes, we are.
Right, I'm up next, so I'll be covering Ebony's portion as well, so, I'll be reading along with some of this, with the rest of you too. Since I'm covering both portions, so, for our events, since July first, twenty twenty-three, we have had 587 total events, 518 face-to-face, 69 of those virtual. Our assistance hours since July 1 as well, 351, the majority of those being taught for retention, followed by eligibility and then FAFSA assistance and J Foster, and then some counselors also sought virtual assistance as well. For professional development, we've had sessions from NCAN focusing on college search, assisting school districts, justice system involved with students. There'll be several updates for outreach and events dealing with justice impacted students, looking at AI, child saving accounts, advocacy, preparing students for future work, partnerships, and career development. So for media mentions, we have had two since the last meeting, both dealing with FAFSA updates and FAFSA rollout, Casino's response to the challenges with the better FAFSA rollout. And so we're continuing to get, we'll have some more at the next meeting as well, because we're constantly being reached out to about what we're doing in order to assist students and parents with FAFSA completion. For FAFSA efforts, we took part at I represented Louisiana at Benefit Data Trust's FAFSA Action webinar, along with representatives from Pennsylvania and Indiana, discussed what Louisiana did when FAFSA was part of the graduation requirement, what we are going to do going forward, even though it's not, that we will still provide the services that we've always provided to assist students and parents with FAFSA completion and submission. And then other states talk about what they're doing as they work towards implementing universal FAFSA completion. And then we also discussed our old friend Wyatt, who is our AI-based tool to assist individuals with completing FAFSA. And then they also launched the chatbot version of Wyatt as well, because it was text only before. So we continue to promote Wyatt. We actually have a campaign that we are launching in just a few days, focusing on GoFAFSA. We'll have some updates on some numbers at the next meeting. But that is going to be focused on sharing Wyatt as a resource, as well as resources and assistance that is available through LOSFA as well. We have a new website that will direct individuals to LOSFA's FAFSA page, which is GoFAFSA, GAUX.org. So we're trying to make it as simple as possible for individuals to be able to find assistance for FAFSA completion. Also, Ebony and Kylie were part of the CHIA meeting discussing FAFSA simplification and what Louisiana has been doing as well. Ebony mentioned to me before she ran over to the Capitol that the report, there should be a report from CHIA that's part of your packet, so you should all have a copy. For our CASC outreach, we've had several things geared towards justice impacted individuals. So April represented LOSFA at the United Way Job and Resource Fair, which is geared towards justice impacted individuals and their re-entry to society and workforce. The Louisiana Probation and Parole Office graduation, we have a presence at those, so that we can connect those students with LOSFA resources to identify ways that they can earn a credential to start a career pathway, ways that they can pay for that as well. Also in attendance, we attended the Allen Correctional graduation ceremony as well. We have been working on some more printed resources to share with those students at these events also. Oh, and then we hosted the Student Support Services for Justice Impacted Prospective Enrolled Student webinars. There were 79 attendees from higher ed institutions, nonprofits, workforce organizations, corrections departments, probation and parole departments, and other state agencies, so that we can make them aware of resources that were available and how LOSFA serve this population. And then we've also been hosting our top state orientation webinars. Those started in April. It's reaching out to individuals who have been awarded TOPS Tech but have not utilized their awards. So that, coupled with a text messaging campaign, is geared towards getting students who are eligible for TOPS Tech to use TOPS Tech. And then we also started doing the TOPS informational webinar for the general public. So we've always done this for school counselors and other individuals. This is the first time that we have hosted a webinar on the TOPS program to the general public. That is part of our continuing efforts to put TOPS information out there in as many different platforms as we can to share that information. We're in the process of updating our publications for TOPS, making it as simplified as possible, as well as updating our TOPS information on our websites, just to make information as clear and easy to find as possible. And then we also had our home study webinars. Anna Bro, who is our outreach coordinator for private school, home study, school, has been working on study webinars, sharing information about TOPS award eligibility processing for home study students. And so that's something I've started doing every year. There was also a senior skip day event that was hosted by Senator Barry. Senior Skip Day, and LOSFA representation was there, providing TOPS program, financial aid scholarships, and we were also there to assist with on-site FAFSA completion as well. The ACAC campaign, American College Application Campaign, Kevin Bro attended the convening for that in Washington, D.C. So this is something that we've been working on, focusing on events and resources to aid school counselors in college application and other college access programs as well. So for communications efforts, we have been looking for ways to enhance our customer service experience. So we have Lex, of course, which is available for assistance 24/7. Wyatt is available 24/7 in a text format as well as a chatbot now. That is for FAFSA completion. And then we have also extended our hours where they can talk to a live agent from 4:30 to 7 p.m. So we can bring that information out. Our new lobby sign mentions that as well for individuals that visit the office. And also we directing individuals to our LOSFA assistance page where they can access all the different ways that they can get any kind of advising or assistance from LOSFA, whether that be digital, whether that be a virtual office hour, or the chatbots that we have. So the UCAN Better FAFSA state policy leaders meeting was in April. Kylie attended that, discussing the simplified quote unquote better FAFSA updates and what we have been doing here in Louisiana. They also had launched a Do the FAFSA campaign, and they have been sharing information on our platforms as well. Also with the Special Olympics, this is a new partnership that we have, and it's designed to promote our LA Able programs. We're really trying to grow the accounts that we have for LA Able. So a few months ago, we developed this partnership with Special Olympics so that we have a presence at all of their events, so that we could have advertising for the program in their publications and their e-newsletters. And so Jenny has really stepped up as we've been trying to fill an outreach coordinator position for community partnerships and 529 promotion. She has stepped up working with the contact that we have there at Special Olympics. And so this is a partnership that we're really excited about and looking to grow here as well. For social media, our total impressions, that is the number of times content is displayed. This does not include Facebook, because it only includes Facebook ads. Remember that number is deceptively low because they just won't tell us how many impressions we have. That's the number of times it's been displayed. Total reach, that is the number of individuals who saw our content. This is from March until May. So we'll have a clear update, more updated numbers at our next meeting. 150,000 almost 152,000. And engagements, that's the number of people who shared it, liked it, and commented. So that's 8,269. So popular social media posts that we've had, the home study webinar, National 529 month, and then our student help campaign. Anything with tops is usually going to catch the attention of students, parents, or partners when you're sharing. And then here is where we stand with our followers that we have. Facebook continues to be our most popular with 50,000, X with 2,000, and our followers on Instagram a little over 2,000. This is also part of the role of a digital media specialist is to come up with a strategic campaign to grow our social media following, particularly for students trying to reach them on our Instagram as well. So for our website, over 200,000 total page views. And so Tops continues to be the #1 driver of traffic that we have to our page. Organic searches being the reason why people end up finding our website. We continue to make updates and improvements to our website as we get through one of the major projects that we have with our AI assistants for college match portal that we're working on. Our next big focus is going to be revamping, streamlining, and simplifying LOSFA's website. So stay tuned for that. That's all that I have. Any questions, comments, minutes, rumors? Thank you.
I will pitch it for the volume since I'm the one that asked them to do it. And kudos to Shane. I think you might have found out at the 9:30 might be generous. He was going to do both. So we are, as a good team does, right? We pivoted. We had each other's backs and we're dividing it. All right, so the student engagement, remember we talked about the comprehensive advising officers. And what I really do like about this is that we now have a method to be able to track the types of cases, the types of referrals, and how we are doing. It's not enough to just serve students. We feel as though as good stewards of the public's trust and public funding, you need to be able to show to the legislature what you're doing and what the impacts of those are. And then that also informs LOSFA for what do we continue to request budgetary funds for? Is what we're requesting working? And if it isn't, then we need to re-examine it, back it up, try it again, and do something else that students and families tell us this is what's most effective. So these Salesforce cases, again, that's that level 3, most intensive level of assistance. So it's showing you cases that are open, cases that are closed, and if we have to escalate a case or if it's on hold. And then if you look at that next slide, it begins to break it down to say the types of issues that are open through May. And this helps us to see what is important to the publics that we're serving. Those of you who have known LOSFA for a long time, I would hope that it is fair for you to say that this LOSFA is not the LOSFA that you knew before. The LOSFA that you knew before was primarily concerned on how you get tops. And we'd go out and we do those webinars, we do those seminars, and we would give you a poster people can read, right? And as we advance, we've learned that we aren't just serving high school students anymore. We're serving everybody from birth all the way with our 529 programs to individuals that are returning adults, and there's no age limit on that, as well as justice impacted individuals, as well as foster care, as well as homeless students. The list goes on. So that LOSFA before is not the LOSFA now, but yet our budget and the number of people that we're going to have is going to pretty much stay the same. So that means that you really have to make some strategic decisions, bring on strategic talent, and you really do have to identify is what you think you're doing, what people need you to do, and how effective is it. So very, very excited about a public entity using what's usually considered to be a private sector tool to be able to evaluate ourselves. Then you can see our Chelsea and Trudy, who are recent to LOSFA, have really jumped on the bandwagon. This NCAN certification is quite extensive. But what this does is as our team members achieve this, this means that they're on a national level. And they are meeting national standards for what it means to be doing college access and advising, not just what we think is best. So congratulations to Chelsea and Trudy for completing this. And they join a host of other LOSFA outreach members who have already completed their credentials. Here you can see one of our other CAOs, Christy Clark, at work, FAFSA at work with those partnerships that Shane talked about, partnering with the public libraries to be able to provide FAFSA events. In other words, I hope Gus Wells is listening today. He was our former outreach director. And one day we were sitting in there talking about how we need to do business differently. And that we cannot just rely and depend upon counselors and advisors at the schools to get the entire message out. We all know how overworked and overloaded all of you are. We have to be able to do more. And he said, you know what? We gotta start, instead of taking it to the streets, that old song, we gotta start taking it to the seats. Well, these are examples of taking it to the seats. Where are students and how do we meet them? So you're seeing that, also our virtual student network groups. So we've got kind of a triage of services with student engagement. Because with our FAFSA events, right, that might be how you serve large groups of students. These student networking groups is how we serve small groups of students. These are more intimate groups where students come together. They share their stories, they hear the stories of other students. We connect them with professionals in the field. We connect them with internships. Many students have gone on to be hired out of connections they made with student networking groups. What you saw for our comprehensive advising officers with the Salesforce cases, that's how we serve one-on-one. So we can do individual assistance comprehensively. We can work with you in a small group, or we can reach you as a larger group. Our completion ceremony, I had the opportunity to attend that. It was really affirming because we had someone in their 70s that had just completed a 4-year degree. We had someone that was 64 that was an honorary member that completed an associate's degree. We had individuals that were completing 2-year degrees from private institutions, public institutions, and we had high school students that were in those networking groups, including one that basically said that the regular K-12 environment didn't work for him. I've never heard a student say, you know, you get tested and you pass the test only to be met with another test and another test and another test. That didn't work for me. I taught school for 13 years. I was like, okay, we need that perspective. So I decided that the high set and a non-traditional path would work best for me. That student completed it. We found out about this case when Harold and I were at the farmer's market downtown on a Saturday. He got help that afternoon. And he happened to miss his high school graduation because they walked and he passed his high set on a Friday and they walked. And how about our stellar team had the superintendent of his parish on that call, so his grandmama and his granddaddy could see him honored. So from single mothers to individuals pursuing, everybody had a story and everybody's different stories were honored and valued. And that's what makes this team behind us and upstairs and wherever they are in the field as great as they are, because every one of those individuals are equally important. So hats off to them. Speaking of that, this same group connected high school students from the STEM Academy to the LHC group, one of our stellar, I would say platinum level partners, because they not only sponsored the shirts for the students in their professional polos, they sponsored internships, they sponsored job shadowing, as well as say, LHC group is known for home health care, right? But you don't just have to be a nurse to work there. They have accountants, they have IT people, they have human resource individuals, so it's bringing this to life for one company may have multiple career paths, so, and they have hired students from our networking groups. Our community engagement, and we also do, we can't really say we're gonna take care of students outside if we don't take care of our people inside. And so this is, Jennifer Miller is not here, but Jennifer is another jewel in the LOSFA crown, and that her focus is on employee engagement, taking care of LOSFA and doing good things for LOSFA along with our safety coordinator. So here's an example of their summer dangers, also how we work with LAHEC, our outreach for the case management and mental health. I am really proud to say, it isn't enough for me to be on the cutting edge. I am looking for bleeding edge. That is what I expect from our team, because that is what the public expects for us. And one of our newer frontiers in this area of social work is the area of sports social work. We didn't know it was a thing. Well, now we do. And we've already, Ms. Malvo has attended a conference, and now we're looking at how can we become certified with sports social work, because who doesn't need assistance more than our student athletes, particularly in this day and time with NIL? I mean, that's a big deal. And cost of choice, and what's the best opportunity for you, and what do they really offer you? And what will you have left to pay? Is a big deal, as well as the social aspects of being a student athlete and the ups and downs of that. So really I'm proud of the team, and walking that walk and talking that talk, we have launched Calm Business. I know I'm using it, and several of our employees, but this is available to all LOSFA employees. And what we love about Calm Business is that Calm allows each employee to invite up to 5 family members to also use those features. So everything from daily meditations to daily professional development and learning how to remain calm in dealing with others as well as yourself. We've had stories where employees have said, I've got a youngster, and there's a sleep story for youngsters, and the more sleep my baby gets, the better I can do in my job the next day. We've all been there, or many of us have. So just proud of the engagement efforts, and that came out of the data that shows that employee engagement is not just a frill or fluff. It's essential to optimal performance of an entity, and the jobs we do are high stress. So we have to give our employees tools to deal with that. And that concludes the longest update.
Now we're for go break.
Good morning, I'm Deborah Hall, Scholarships and Grant Director of Shining Endeavors. I'll just mention, as Rhonda asked us to, about our division. The Scholarship Grant Division has 11 full-time employees and 1 student intern. We administer 17, I think, last count, programs that benefit our students. The one that you're probably most popular, most recognizable is our TOPS program, which has 4 components: the TOPS Opportunity, Performance Honors, and our Top Tech Award, as well as our Top Tech Early Start Award, which is for dual enrollment program for high school, public and 11-12 learners. In addition to that, we also have programs. We have the John R. Justice Student Loan Program, which is a program that we get funding from the federal government that awards attorneys who are working as public defenders or prosecutors in public service. And they can get up to $10,000 a year to go back to their student loan debt. So that's been public service attorneys usually make less than the private sector. So that program, we work with attorneys across the state for that program. A program that is done, that was not funded this past spring, but will continue funding in the fall, is the Go You Challenge program. It's a program for the National Guard for students who go to the U Challenge program, YCP. And once they finish the YCP program, they're eligible for up to 2 years of funding at a 2 or 4 year school in a program that leads to a 3, 4, or 5 star job as defined by the Workforce Commission. We also work with DCFS on the Chafee, education and training voucher, which is for students who have aged out of the foster care system. They can get up to $5,000 a year. We work with colleges so that those students can receive their money, right before school starts, so that they can pay for those expenses that, other students can call mom or dad and get a check for them. Our biggest grant program, which is need-based, is the GO grant. We have $70 million in that program for students enrolled in 2- and 4-year public and 4-year private institutions. We make those awards, we allocate those awards to our colleges, and they disperse to students according to our GO grant packaging policy. So on the screen, you see the GO grant funding, and that has been reduced. Our remaining allocation for GO grant, we're right at $63,000. And we're plans on target to finish that before the end of the fiscal year for GO grants. We also administer our two newer, well, let me go back to another one. With DCFS, we work with them on the STEP TANF program. STEP is an acronym for Strategies to Empower People, and TANF is the media assistance students. So those who are identified by their caseworkers from DCFS, they're allowed to pursue vocational training that will last up to 2 years, and we help pay for those expenses. And then we have the Rockefeller Wildlife Scholarship, which is for students who major in areas pertaining to wildlife and fisheries. There are 8 public institutions in the state that have programs in those areas, and students can get up to $2,000 undergraduate and $3,000 graduate a year for majoring in those areas. We also have the BESI tuition program for teachers, which we administer on behalf of the Department of Education. And that's where teachers are provided stipends or educational funds to get training in STEM related fields. Then our 2 newer programs, we have the Go Teach Scholarship Program for students who major in education. And then we have a graduate award for those who have a degree in an area other than education, and they go back to certify in the alternate certification program. So that's going to be the newest is also the Mike Foster, MJ Foster Promise Program, which is our program for students who major in one of the top 5 technical areas, which range from manufacturing, warehousing, computer science. They also have areas in healthcare. Those are our biggest fields, 5 in the Mike Foster Promise Program. Next slide. So the MJ Foster stats, those are the most, it's really as of June 17th. The numbers have not changed. There were 1,700 new applications and for the upcoming year, 24-25. And then the renewal count is 626, 796 for those are eligible, but ineligible, and then the cancel. So we're still waiting on supplemental funding to complete the 23-24 academic year, and we're taking applications for 24-25. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Just give a shout out while Patrick is coming up. Those are gonna be many more programs than those of you who lost earlier before. And it's a double-edged sword. We do a really good job of administering programs. One of the reasons for that is that we have a wonderful online technical assistance team and a wonderful promotion team. But that means that when the legislature thinks about financial aid, we've actually seen legislation come up that was supposed to be administered by somebody else. And Ms. Estee and Ms. Lively do a phenomenal job of listening to a myriad of legislative hearings, and that'll be y'all. They just said, why isn't that administered by LOSFA? And then it gets amended and it's ours. So we do a great job. They give you more to do. And the board has done a phenomenal job of dividing that work because they don't always give you more people to do more things. But as we get more funding to do more, guess what? Our audience is broadening. There's been about a 500% increase in the number of audiences that we serve over the past 10 years.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Pastor Rocky, County Audit Manager. Pitch hitting, as they said, for fiscal year this morning. Before you have update on our TOPS billing to date, you will notice that TOPS expenses today is showing a 3.1% decrease compared to last year at this time. No schools built for tops can time to report to the board this morning, so there will be as much as a $2 million in additional billings for fiscal year 23-24. And the only state university that showed an increase in tops compared to last year are Louisiana Tech, UL, and Grambling. Couple of updates for the fiscal year 24-25 budget. TOPS is fully funded at $297 million. That number comes directly from LOSFA's product projection tool, and it should be adequate to fund TOPS fully, including summer TOPS. The Patriot Scholarship Program received an additional $1.4 million, which increased the total to $3.7 million. There's an additional $50,000 for the Go Youth Challenge Program. MJ Foster, Go Teach, and Go Grant are the same in fiscal year 24-25 as they were for the fiscal year 23-24. This is the first time since 1999 that Go Grant did receive an increase. Couple of other matters that are currently pending. There are 2 VA7s that are in process, and they are important to a couple of LOSFA programs. There's a VA7 for the supplemental budget bill to give additional funding for Patriot Scholars for the current fiscal years. It was sent back to the Board of Regents by the Office of Planning and Budget for corrections on Friday, June 21st. Those corrections were made, so the VA7 should be approved quickly. There's also the VA7 for the children of MJ Foster. It has to be reviewed by the Joint Legislative Committee on the Budget. They do not meet again until August, so that one is currently in limbo. And that's all that I currently have at this time.
Yes, yes, and usually when we don't do summer, it's because we have a more funding shortfall. And so we try to prioritize summer and let students know that you really need to be advanced in your studies to be able to utilize summer, or you're graduating that summer. Because what we found by experience is the student would go for summer and use their TOPS, and then come back and say, where's my TOPS for fall or spring? Not understanding summer counts as one of your 8 semesters, and it's generally a lower cost. Now you have a high cost semester, but you don't have your TOPS done. Okay, so the last update, Executive Director's update. I've been using this update to spotlight LOSFA 2.0, and we've really just been kind of dancing all around LOSFA 2.0, which is that triage of services, as well as a triage of providing services, individuals, small groups, and large groups. And how do you provide those services to dedicating folks on the phone? Because before we had folks doing the phone and doing outreach, imagine how wonderful that life was. And then dedicating to those cases that need to be accelerated but aren't extensive. And then that top tier of, okay, this is a case management approach, and we understand that a student sleeping outside a financial aid office because a tree fell on their house and they don't have anywhere to go is not a program that any of what does, right? But how do you get that student connected to services that you may not do, but you should be figuring out government for Louisiana families, not them having to figure it out for themselves. When we embarked upon this, we looked at the research based upon the Gear Up program that we operated. And the research told us which top 3 services are most valuable and most effective in terms of the numbers. Did they move a needle in whether a student qualified and went to school or not? Because if you don't have a mountain of money to throw at people helping, then you have to get really smart about the services that you offer. And those 3 were comprehensive advising and mentoring, right? Wraparound services. And students said that they wanted to be connected, or a connection between what am I studying in post-secondary and what job is at the end of that. So we use those 3 buckets of services to concentrate as LOSFA 2.0. And then we said, and how are you going to deliver the services? You need to be able to touch an individual, you need to be able to touch a small group, you need to be able to touch large groups. And then we said, how will we go about the mechanics of doing that, right? And that's when we said, dedicate people to the phones, dedicate individuals to median services that include partnerships, and then dedicate individuals to that. What happened was, I need more than just financial aid, or I need more financial aid than even LOSFA offers. And then I need housing, and then I'm worried about childcare, and oh, I have a bike. So which institution should I attend? I have a child, I have a bike, and I have a job. What's my match? So this is now an outgrowth of, okay, if you're going to do that structured, then you have to be able to support that structure. If you're going to say you're doing services that work, then you better be ready to provide the data that shows the results of those services so that you can justify funding and make funding decisions. We also have to make sure that we are supporting the institutions, because LOSFA's job is not to make front page headlines when we go out to the institution. If we're partnering with institutions, we have to have your back, not with a knife, but with assistance. So we introduced the technical assistance part of audit that says, we do not believe if the school is that. But we believe that we need to, if we're finding the mistake, are we sending someone out there to help provide the training or the mentoring or the just-in-time assistance to correct the mistakes? How are we doing that? So today we're introducing you or reintroducing you with more detail to what's happening with audits technical assistance. They're going to come up and talk about how they're doing that service now, because they have branched out and put the concept into action. And then our newest unit is research and business intelligence, and they're going to come up and tell you these are our efforts and how we plan to collect that data, right? And position that in student outcomes. So I'm going to yield the floor to them.
That's kind of you. You didn't have to give.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Sway.
Good morning. My name is Brittany Lee, and this is Brian Tanner, and we function as your technical assistance specialist for the audit division, but of course, we work really across the aisles. Okay, so our initiative this academic year finds its roots in LOSFA strategic plan. And so of course, we understand the mission that is to promote, prepare, and provide equity of college access. And so what we did this academic year truly aligns with LOSFA strategic plan goals 2, 3, and 4. And so 2, of course, to serve as the primary state source of student financial assistance program services and information. 3, to partner with the Board of Regents and the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education to maximize access to post-secondary education through state student financial assistance policies and programs. And then 4, to maintain statutory and regulatory compliance. And so this all led us to aligning ourselves with the strategic plan, led us to a relationship building effort. So what it was imperative for us as we traversed along with the audit team on their various audits, became imperative for us to get some feedback from financial aid directors and their departments so that we could best gather insights and then develop strategies to serve them and to support them effectively, even more than LOSFA is already doing. And so our questionnaire was developed from this. And so it was a quick questionnaire, and we'll show you an example. But the themes that came out of that questionnaire aligned with the emotions of audit. So we asked questions regarding how folks felt about audit when they heard the word audit, policy and procedure manuals, student demographics, staff turnover, cross-training, award processing, and even checks and balances. So we tried to have some questions that covered a myriad of resources. And so on your screen now is an example of our questionnaire. And so there were 15 questions, three divided into roughly 4 sections. The main 3 sections here that you see that have all of this great intel are sections 1, 2, and 3, the general profile, training profile, and processing profile. Within those sections, you see questions regarding how the institution trains their staff, is there cross-training within their staff? And regarding the processing profile, we kind of add some key questions regarding how they process various LOSFA programs to glean some information on what could be some interesting supportive initiatives that we could develop. The last section, section 4, gave financial aid directors the space and the time to tell us if there was anything they needed assistance with. And so that leads us to our key takeaways, which Brian is going to cover.
Thank you. Okay. Here's a quick glimpse of a small sample size of our 16 institutions that we were privileged to partner with audit and ride along with them and question some, utilize our questionnaire and ask like 3 key questions to some of the institutions. The 3 areas that we touched on that we have before us is the operation manual on hand, cross-training, and then also processing. In these 3 areas, if you look at the first graph, you'll see that 67% of the 16 institutions that we questioned did affirm that they did have an operations manual or some guiding resources on hand to use on their day-to-day processing or just their day-to-day routine. And from there, we go to the second one, which is cross-training. You see, the interesting thing on this graph is 67% of the institutions that we interviewed, they said that they do not cross-train. That is could be for a number of reasons, you know, different reasons such as number of persons on staff or staff size. So then we go to the last graph, which was who's responsible for the processing. And what we want to do is we want to find out, is the financial aid director responsible solely by themselves doing the processing, or is there someone in the office that's assisting them, or is there multiple departments like Versar's office, billing, or do they even use a third party? If you see the big yellow part, you see that that gave us a little bit of peace of mind that 59% of the institutions did have support for that financial aid director. So they weren't doing it by themselves. So it did provide that checks and balance to also provide just more efficiency in the processing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the next one. With all of these key takeaways, it gave us some ammunition as far as creating a short list. We know that there could be many more, but for right now, we want to give you a short list of some of the things that we want to do as interventions. The first one would be the annual satisfaction survey, which will go out each year to the institutions, requesting their feedback, let us know how we're doing. If they feel like the line of communication is great, if it could be improved, and we just continue to build upon that. Resource check-in is just that, where we check in with the institutions to see if they have all of the current LOSFA materials on hand, because we don't want them to be lacking in a department and we find out after the fact. They had a student in front of them requesting some literature and they didn't have it. So financial aid fundamental corner. This is a designated corner on the website where the financial aid directors can go to the website and pull all basic knowledge of all of our programs, all in one central location. And intervention 4 is pick a process video archive. This is one of Ms. Brittany's babies. And it's kind of cool. It's a new interactive process, which will be a step-by-step video process for all the financial aid directors to log on, to watch these step-by-step processes, to learn if they have any questions about any step along the way, they can watch these interactive videos and complete the process from start to finish. So that's really excited about that one. So with these key takeaways and interventions, give you a quick snapshot of our timeline. What we plan to do is get our master survey out this summer to all of the schools and institutions in the state. do a deep dive on the information as it comes in. And we plan on doing some fun and interactive things such as lunch and learns, webinars, roundtables, and also provide a monthly newsletter or quarterly newsletter just to give updates to the institutions, letting them know that there are updates within the semester or changing programs, just to keep them in the loop with everything. We also want to offer scenario-based planning exercises to keep everybody on point. So if they have questions or just a little insecure about certain things, this will be that thing, keep them on point. Okay. So now, with giving you the key takeaways and some of our interventions, given what the information that we have, we believe that if everything works well, these are some of our anticipated outcomes. That the programs and processes will be understood clearly by most, if not all, of our directors, that the processes will be easily accessible, that LOSFA will be that key resource, whether it be our site, our webinars, or conferences, and then the state aid programs. Oh, and also on that second point, that third point, that we will also see an uptick in the participation from the institutions based on our relationship building, and they look at us as a friend. Hey, I'm just going to see my friends. So that's a key thing. And then the state aid programs provide equitable access to colleges. And then the last one, a two-way communication between LOSFA and the stakeholders, where there's an open dialogue between both LOSFA and the stakeholders. And that is effective, and that it is also that is effective and consistent. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honor and Vickers, who you met earlier, Connor, who was for a while ago, and we are created in May. And in creating it, we were trying to figure out how can we leverage technology better so that we do all the things in our strategic goal. We do that promote, prepare, provide. We tell our story. We make sure the data is accurate and proves that we're not just saying, oh, we're helping all these students. Show me we're helping these students. Let's make sure the data shows that. And if it doesn't show it, what do we need to change so that we can show it? Because we want improvement. We're not perfect, we know that, but with the new data that we're getting and all the information, we should be able to continuously make improvements so that we can give the best aid to the students, the families, everything that they need, and ensure that the money is being used in a good way. We're not wasting state resources. We're helping, we're getting more students into financial aid programs. We are getting them less student loan debt. So that's the whole process of it. If you look at those main functions, you'll see the very first words of each of them: data integration, data warehousing, data mining, data visualization. We want to take all the data and show it in the easiest way that we can to make sure that everybody knows what we're doing and how we can prove it and improve it. Next one. Our audience is, as Dr. McKay likes to say, all y'all. We want to tell the students, we want to tell the parents, we want to tell the schools, we want to tell the legislature, we want to tell the newspaper, anybody who's interested in it, we want them to know what we are doing. So we are not looking at saying, we're just going to do all these technical reports and send it out only to certain people who will understand everything. We want to make it understandable for the data people, for Joe Blow, for my 18-year-old who is a computer science nerd, for my 21-year-old who looks at me and says, numbers? Really? What the heck are numbers, Mom? Why? So we want to make sure everybody understands it and we're looking at it. And that's what we're doing. We're going to build out a technological infrastructure that collects all this data. We want to parse it out and build dashboards and create a self-service business intelligence analytic application on our website where it can help somebody who understands it or somebody who has no clue what they're looking for. So we are going to, next slide. The benefits are we're going to have informed decision-making because we're going to have the data out there. We're going to be able to show people what's going on. We're going to have improved operations, hopefully, because we'll have the data to base on how we want to make improvements. We're going to have an enhanced data visualization so that everybody can understand it. And we're going to have better strategic planning so that people can understand what we're trying to do, how we meet those goals, where we move with stuff. Next slide. And this is just a real pretty picture that shows what we're going to do in visuals. If that's your kind of learning style, we're going to take the data surface, we're going to make it all collected, we're going to analyze it, and we're going to put it in those outputs where everybody can understand it. And if you guys want to add anything, you're welcome to. Our first big project that hopefully we will get to you guys in a few months, we're aiming for August right now, is a deep dive into our top tech program, trying to find out information on students that don't accept top tech. What happens to them? Where do they go? What do they do? Are they paying on their own? Are they going out of state? Why are they not taking the award? So that we can maybe help students get more information and more visualization on that, and then do a deep dive into it and say, okay, they didn't take the award, but they went to school and they paid on their own. They had to pay student loan debt for it. Why was that? And if they can go and do good enough and they got it to the institutions, then why didn't we pay their student costs? So we're trying to find out all the information and then be able to present it to stakeholders at, like we call it, the pointy building over there, who makes budgetary information and tells us how much money we get. What changes can we do to better serve the students and the state? And that's what our objective is, guys.
I'll leave and thank you. First of all, big round of applause for both TA and RBI. You can ask our team members to do things and charge them to do things, but if you don't have an infrastructure that allows them to work and that can tell them this is effective, that's not effective, and make decisions based on that, then it's really all for naught. One of the most curious things, speaking of the TOPS tech data, when people say, oh, they don't want TOPS anymore, TOPS OPH has an 80% acceptance rate, and I'm doing, CFO math, right? We're going to round it. So if 80% of the students that are eligible for TOPS opportunity, performance, and honors accept the award, then why are we 3.1% down? If you flip it with TOPS Tech, 80% of the students, roughly, that are eligible for that award do not take it. Well, there's another question. Oh, they're all going out of state. 8% of the TOPS Tech eligible students go out of state. That's the 17, 18, 19 ACT. Let that percolate. I don't know that institutions are coming going, I want you, you have a 17, and they're giving them all 4 rides. What's similar about that is that in the TOPS OPH, the 8% figure going out of state, that's honors. That's your 27 and above. Oh yeah, they are getting 4 rides. So why is the behavior the same there? But then it differs. Almost 50% of the 80% that don't accept the award are enrolled in the state of Louisiana in a program that either you can't pay them for or they're enrolled part-time, maybe because you didn't pay them. So that leads to another question. So if they're not taking it, right? And they're enrolling, did anybody ever ask how they're doing? Because until you can say, well, they didn't take the award, they enrolled in a program not eligible, so are they all enrolling in a 2-year in a program that's not eligible? Are they enrolling in 2-year and 4-year? What are they enrolling in? And are they finishing? So that's not all data we have here. So when you talk about pulling data from here, pulling data from here, pulling data from here to say, first of all, when you get the answer to those questions, we take a strong look in the mirror as LOSFA and say, is it something we didn't say? Is it a message we didn't convey? Did we not connect it to a career enough for a student to think that it had a value proposition? Or is it something that is you might want to consider this as a change in policy. But you can't ask someone to change policy without data and without taking a strong look in the mirror and saying, okay, what we could control, we did. This part, we need you for, and it is up to you as to whether you choose to address it or not. That really, I think in a nutshell, that one very real scenario substantiates why we're moving to this structure and why the technical assistance is important. One last example, and that'll do it. The Go Grant Bulletin, which should be going out if it didn't go out already, right? LOSFA took a stance to say you need to be using the most up-to-date ISO that comes to you. We have financial aid directors on this advisory board. And it got back to the North Wall, as John Bell used to call the side that John and Robin and I sit on, that they're not happy about that. I'm like, I don't get it. Why would they not be happy about that? Well, they've got this, this, and this, and this, and the feds say that they can do something else. I'm like, you know what? Right, let's be who we say we are. Why don't you, as audit and as legal and as SG, get with the folks who are closer to that work and listen to what they have to say, test it by, because again, I shouldn't tell you, oh, you can do it. And then when that team comes out to audit you, you got a finding, right? Or when legal says, I don't know why y'all thought that was a great idea. I wasn't in the room and you just violated federal law, or I'm not comfortable with it. So it came across my desk yesterday and I asked two questions. One, is this aligned with federal law? Yep, that's the feds, okay? And two, are we all on the same page? Not we being me, we being legal, scholarship and grants, audit, and the financial aid directors, thank you, Mr. Myers, that were involved in the input, and that is the answer the team said. We leaned heavily upon the input, legal and audit are all on board, and I said, then it's good to go. But that's a practical example of what LOSFA 2.0 is all about, which is looking at things holistically, looking at things based on the data, which comes from the actual experiences. And then that isn't worth the darn if you can't visualize that, where the average person or legislator or legislative staffer can look at that data, get it, and believe in the integrity of the folks in this room. And saying, we depend on you for data when we don't depend on other people, but because you know what you do? You give us unbiased data that says you make of it what you will, but these are the facts. This is what the data show. And oh, by the way, here's how this was sourced. So it's taken us a good while to build that reputation. This is going to help us go from here, right, to cutting edge to bleeding, which is really what our objective is. So proud of this team. Give every one of you a hand.
Would I be correct in assuming that as part of this, you also have, plans for what, not only how you will use the data, but how others will use the data, and making sure that others and the public know where this data is to be accessed?
Yes.
This was my dissertation, which I never completed. My professor said, now what are you going to do with the data you collect? And so that's the one, I'm sure you have that, but it's.
We do, and it's based on experience. The 6 o'clock at night calls, the Sunday calls, the Saturday calls, the at the farmer's market calls, those usually come to me, right? And there's a litmus test. Is that person saying, I'm on your website, I can't find it? Or I'm having difficulty looking at it, or was it me then? Or when the legislative staffer who's working much longer hours, and you know that, Salter, then we may be at the time is saying, we need to get this bill amended and passed, and I'm needing to access the data, and where can I find it on your site? So we knew it's got to be accessible, it's gotta be, the parent has to be able to understand it, the student has to be able to understand it, just like the statistician can understand it, or the legislator, or their staffer whose office is calling because they have a constituent who wants to know something. So yes, it is not only continuing with the reputation we've built as being solid, unbiased data, but actually putting it out there and visualizing it so that people can see. Yes, we have statistically determined there is a relationship between A and B and C. Here's what we can do. Here's what you could do if you chose to do it. Mhm. It should be there. Okay, no, then we won't, yeah, no. No, MJ Foster data is actually updated every week and sent to the legislature and stakeholders at the Board of Regents every week. So if you're not seeing it on the site, we can get that taken care of. We will do
But
that.
y'all get that weekly update when I get it. So I do send it out to the advisory board
But
when I get it.
if you're saying you don't see it on the site, we need to correct that. Mhm.
Particularly a study around like proprietary
Mhm.
portion versus the public portion.
Mhm.
Because I think people see the proprietary number and they go, oh my God, they're spending so much more money than the public. But their programs are different than ours.
Yes.
Because they're less than 1 year. And so I would really like to just kind of see data around like number of students served, what are the outcome rates and things of that nature. So that's just a request.
No, actually, we've said to the legislature that we want to see that for both programs. We want to be able to see if this program says that you have to be at this percentage of the poverty level when you take the award. What are you at when you finish? And did you get a job? Right? Was it a better job than you had before? So that's data that we don't all have. And yes, you're right. If there's a difference between, and that's why we broke the data out and changed the way we did it. Because when you look at the numbers for payments for proprietary to public, it's like, well, you're spending double over here. I'm like, look at the student count. Because the student count in this year, as a second year of MJ Foster, for the first year is total student choice. That choice is 43%, maybe, or 47 to 53%, almost 50-50 in where students are choosing to go. It's just that you've almost got an equal number of students enrolled in both. It's just that the costs for the programs are higher here. Then we had a meeting where the question was asked, well, why is that? Right? And so there's a different business model. There's a different level of support structure. There's a different duration of support structure. Now we're saying to folks, you know what? Tell me your data. And if we can get that, then we will make sure that it's reported in an unbiased manner and stakeholders can see it, as well as, even more important than stakeholders, what about the students? When you say, should I choose to pay twice as much here or here? Well, what's the difference are there any differences in outcomes or in support? And then as true match and fit, you make your choice. So yes, we're right on it. That's an interesting question because we've asked it several times and we're told that they're waiting on the Workforce Commission to meet and approve the list. But we continue to ask as well. And we have expressed concern and said that we would really like that data in January. And even if the fix for that, which was thought to be a fix, is that the data are good until July, our point, I think it was made last week, is that students have made their choice for this upcoming fall semester before this time. And if you just added some new programs, wouldn't that be information they would like to know before they've chosen where they're going to enroll? We've also asked about apprenticeships. if there's paid apprenticeships, so are they eligible or are they not eligible? We've asked about the teaching apprenticeships that we saw. Are those eligible, not eligible? So we are asking those questions. We cannot make that policy, but we can, as we said, given the data, ask the questions to say, is that something you're willing to look into?
Especially, or not represented, first notified.
Mhm.
Of any trainings or anything that you're doing, because like, our colleges get a lot of emails, but we have quarterly meetings with our staff, and so I think it would be very helpful for system office liaisons to know that, because we tend to get the emails from LOSFA when our colleges have done something
We have a
bad,
finding.
and we would like to help them be proactive in that standpoint, so if you could get system office staff in part of that. We
We
also
talked
have a
about that last
listserv.
year, right?
We also have a listserv too, so we can like shoot information out, so if I get information, then I can easily send that out, and I know Patrick and I are.
No, you're right on point, because actually we talked about this last year and it was a four-year institution. And we said, just like the legislative auditors do entrance conferences, and it's not just our team that operates the programs on that, the exec levels on that too. We said, if they're not made aware that you're there, but they're made aware when there's a finding or when you couldn't get something that isn't really fair. So we have already talked about that, and I'm sure that Patrick, do you want to address where that is?
So. Seeing them at, conference, attending this, and we asked them who would they invite into the meeting to attend. In most cases, we typically get, like sometime the intern auditor or the vice chancellor, like academic affairs operators, something of that nature, right? Not necessarily someone at the system office, like in your case, all the time, but there are other individuals at that institution.
Please tell me that I would be a part of your vision for exits. I want to be a part of like knowing that an audit.
Yes.
Or like your schedule, or if you're doing trainings, that type of information, I think is the information that I'm gonna be.
I think that's fantastic.
Especially when there's systemic issues.
Yes.
You've seen the audits, especially when
Yes.
there's a lot of systemic issues
Mhm.
there, and I think if we capture that earlier, which I know that's what y'all are trying to do, it will be helpful for even our system office staff.
And if you can have an offline with Patrick, then what we'll do is the same thing we did with you all on the Go Grant, is listen, hear it, and then figure out, okay, this is how we propose to address it. Did we get it right? That's Regents.
One of the lead stories in Inside Higher Ed today is about the basketball fiasco. And how states have weathered this. And in many cases, states are very surprised that it didn't take a bigger toll. And what more states are doing than what they were surprised is more states are now going to the model that Louisiana had before this legislative session. And that is requiring for graduation. And the reason they're doing that, and then some of you, no, I don't know, maybe Speaker Sullivan. The former commissioner here, Jim Purcell, is now the commissioner in Alabama. And what he said, and when I read this, I said, Louisiana tops this, and I want to say this to the staff and the people in this room. The reason that Louisiana succeeds in many of these areas, despite other barriers that are put in your way, is because of the trust that you have built up and the rapport with all of the stakeholders. And this is exactly what the article inside Higher Ed said, that in many cases where these wraparound services, where they were able to intervene and help with the FAFSA get through the FAFSA fiasco, that has kept students enrolled in higher ed instead of the numbers from. And Louisiana, this is what you have done, in my opinion, in this report. Everybody knows, how can I get help, where can I get help, and people trust LOSFA.
Because, in April, I was invited to graduate. They are now, mandating that as part of the graduation requirements. And it was a couple of weeks after they had a virtual here in Louisiana, but they still invited me to hear, because I had done it for, I mean, at that point, 7 years. And then I was able to use so many of the resources philosophy had, like I went to the website and I was like, here, and they still contacted me like 2 weeks ago. Why is this beneficial? And I was like, oh, we already have a one pager on that one. I just sent it right to her. And so like, even though it's been repealed, it's still there. We were doing that before. We as LOSFA were doing that before, like with the college school Sundays. So all of those examples we were able to use, like in our presentations, it was me, Tex, and we all said the same thing without, we didn't have a lot of time to get together, but we all had our presentations put together. We were saying the same exact things. Obviously we were the first, but then they also had a couple of years in as well. And so they were, you know, more people have reached out to me since then, going, okay, specifically, how did you do this? How did you manage your schedule time to be able to do that? So going into the changes that have happened, I think it's still going to be, you know, a little bit of a challenge, but I know that the resources are there. So it's like, okay, if I have this question, I can go right here, or I can reach out to the LOSFA team, and you know, they'll be like, okay, here's updated, here's what we have. And so, you know, even still, they're like, okay, that's somebody from NCAN was there and talked about it as well. Just what they saw happening in the future as far as the direction of, okay, some states are mandating it, we've repealed it. Like, how is that going to go moving forward?
I think we had some. Full part of the article is. Just, you know, because people knew were a trusted source, get the information correct, publish it, and try to make accomplish the dumbest or however you say. I just wanted to make sure that this is the way I feel about this group that works here.
Thank you so much. Yes. And the Wyatt numbers, we can tell that you have a large percentage of continuing students on there. Again, looking at the data, using the data, another source of data that came to us that made us pivot was we've gotten a grant from ECMC. Now, I looked at the list and I didn't see another Louisiana entity on there. Maybe I just was looking too quickly, but one of the data came in that said that the most effective means of reaching a student with respect to the FAFSA is a near peer. And we immediately were like, hey, team, did you see this? How can we loop that into the methods that we're trying to do with this grant? We have our student networking groups. We have alums that came back to this completion for the student networking groups. How can we do this and employ this? The same thing with, that's how the extended office hours came up. Not everybody, particularly the MJ Foster group, returning adults, they may be working while you're working. So who's going to answer those questions? So we used AI for, not to replace humans, but for the basic questions, to leave the humans open to the what had happened was, or we're almost at what had happened was, and then how can we offer 24/7 with AI and then extend it with humans? And we're tracking that data to see, right? If Friday is not a great day, okay, then why do you offer it on Friday? Or if there's not that many people, look at your outreach. Did you publicize it yet? Okay, now publicize it and then see if your outreach changes. But data should be used in everyday decisions as well. So yes. We get it.
I
No,
want to get sure to have the.
no, we get it.
I'm thinking about this number of the eligible ones, like, in order for them to be eligible, they had to fill in the top application or the FAFSA to be processed. And they still,
Want to make sure I had that.
Now-
Yes.
Maybe that y'all call some that we missed or, you know.
On the work keys, we only get them once a year and every May, because that's what the contract is. Because I've had counselors reach out to us and like, you know, it's like, oh, they took it in January, why don't you have the score? And they're reaching out to me in March, and like, we get them once a year, so. And Louisiana Department of Education is like, they have to have that score by April 30th. Now, if a student has a special circumstances and they get a work key score and they're able to take it in June or July, it's the same deadline for them to qualify for TOPS Tech as the regular ACT, but I just have counselors reach out to us going, why don't y'all have this? I'm like, because we don't get it till May. So
That's
just,
but y'all still get it regardless.
Right.
We do have it in SDS or not, y'all will get the comprehensive.
It took us forever, but we did continue to ask and ask and ask different people until we now get it. And again, that's another thing with the data. That data comes directly from ACT. So as much as we can, we try to make sure that data goes from one point to the next point without human intervention. That's an audit standard, and it should be such that when we're evaluating it, it's like, if we pay it, we should be able to evaluate it. And that's how you continue to build trust with legislators. So as you said, if you get caught monkeying numbers, which you shouldn't even be attempting, right? Then that undermines public trust in what you're doing. And we try to make sure that we question and question and question ourselves to make sure that we got the whole picture. And if something looks wonky, we're like, why does that look wonky? Before you publish it, to go back and see, what do we need to take a look at? What are we missing? So yes. Yes. Yes.
first is the impact making, to consider making in Act 633 and Act 102 of the 2024 regular session of the Louisiana legislature.
So for those of y'all who were here in April, you know, we had a very long list of bills. Only 3 of those actually passed, other than the budget bills, of course. It was these 2 MJ Foster bills and 1 of the many TOPS bills. These 2 are the MJ Foster bills. One copy all over the place. Thank you. Act 633 gradually lowers the age for MJ Foster to 17, 1 year at a time, starting with this year. So beginning as of July 1st, this coming award year, students can be 20 years old, must be at least 20 as opposed to at least 21 to participate. That was the main change with that bill. And then Act 102 made 3 other changes. One of them increases the maximum amount that can be appropriated to 40 million. That does not mean that it will be, but it can be. This year it was static at 10. It also provided that the advisory council is to be called by the Workforce Commission rather than the Board of Regents, as it was in the original bill. And it also requires that the term 1 year be defined. So the rulemaking that was attached with your packet sets forth all of those rules. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
And we did get input from the proprietary schools who wanted a different pay distribution structure during the 1 year. And again, it was another example of the Go Grant issue to say, okay, if this is the way you're wanting to do that, we're not going to mandate that for everybody because everybody may not want to do that. But so then we're writing that in a way that says you have to publicize how you're doing this. You have to make sure the student knows it, and you have to make sure the student knows the consequences. And that we need to be aware of that as well with audit, so that we're giving everybody the ability to operate as they need to within those parameters. So more input that was valuable.
is to consider rulemaking, to amend sections 301, 804, 1203, utility chapter 13, and this is around the program.
Well, is how it's being programmed. So with changes to the FAFSA, that law changed EFC, which is expected family contribution, to SAI, which is student aid index. We had a definition for EFC and references to EFC in a few places throughout the rules with respect to Go Grant. So we put a stop to the use of EFC as of this year, and SAI will be used going forward. This rulemaking also implements Rep. Hughes Bill Act 211 that makes computer science a required core course for OPH and Tufts Tech. It does not add a core course. For the OPH core, a student can take computer science as one of the higher level maths, one of the higher level sciences, or as a substitute for foreign language. For the Tufts Tech core, it would be a higher level science or a higher level, or one of the 9 Jumpstart course sequences that is required. But it will be required, and this is effective in the 28-29 award. So it's for students graduating. Yes.
Yes, and the place of financially kind of following we talked about introducing language that specifically, if nothing else for 2025, indicates that negative value should be treated as 0, but I don't see that language under the constitution.
That is not in rule. That is in the bulletin.
Okay, okay.
Because just for 1 year, we have found that when we put things in the rules for just 1 year, it creates all kinds of havoc. So we put it in the bulletin for this coming academic year. So did that go out, or is it going out today? The bulletin
The one,
on, yeah, the
I
ISOs.
can send it out today or tomorrow morning. Like, yeah,
So it'll go out.
Okay,
I gotta send it to IT to post to the website, and as soon as I do, I can send it out.
Yeah, and I have questions about that, and that's kind of the purpose, the initial purpose.
Yes. Yeah, it is in that Go Grant bulletin.
Y'all got 2 bulletins coming to y'all. So,
What happened with adding the computer science requirement. And I know that the goal, LOSFA, is to get students to college and increase equity and availability. That doesn't align with what the college is requiring as entrance to get it. And also our students that attend the private parochial, various charter schools, they also have other requirements that they're required to have. And I think that requiring students to take computer science, which if you look in the graduation for Tufts University diploma, it states that it has to be AP computer science. So a lot of students are going to be affected by this. And how can we say that students are on the borderline of a 2.5 are going to be better off taking computer science instead of a higher level math? That's going to help them on the ACT, the PSAT, those entrance, the ALEX tests that they'll be taking to qualify for those higher maths in college.
That we are obligated to put into the rules what the legislature passed. TOPS is a legislative program.
No, it's okay.
No, we understand.
Nobody had to hear it. No, actually, they did hear it because LOSFA does not advocate or lobby. LOSFA provides information. But in some instances, many instances, when a legislator is considering something, that's a change. They either themselves contact LOSFA or they authorize their staff to contact us. Sometimes they do not authorize their staff to tell us which legislator it is. It's of no consequence to LOSFA. And they say, what are consequences? And we responded. Individuals that are in private and parochial schools are more than likely going to have an issue with this because of this. We've also heard this in the past. Sometimes that is taken into consideration and it will be changed. And other times it is duly noted and then it is passed as it was drafted by the legislature.
Know what that course is gonna be. It will be up to Bessie to determine what courses will be acceptable. Right now, AP Computer Science A can be used as a higher level math, as an equivalent to a higher level math. And then, you have the other courses that are acceptable for computer science as a foreign language, right?
Right.
I believe there was testimony at the legislature by the Department of Education that additional courses are going to be added. We do not, LOSFA does not have control over when that is going to happen. Now, again, this does not go into effect until 2029 graduates.
Which are going to be 8th graders this year.
I think that's one.
2025,
So we have 1 year.
2026, 2027, yeah. So it's your current 8th graders. And just so you know, this is 8 core curriculums that we'll have out at one time.
Yeah, it is a number of core curricula that are going to be out at one time.
Right. Computer science on the jumpstart pathway is only on 4 pathways out of the 11. So, it's not even universal for that part, according to, like I said, as of, well, I'll say as before I move forward. So that is like, unless they're gonna do arts and technology, business management, info tech, or a law of public safety, that doesn't even help them with the jumpstart students. So then trying to figure out AP. Small schools that don't have AP, certified people, that's gonna be a lot of schools. So that's why, even that right there, I'm not opposed to having more code for things, but it's, how is it gonna benefit the students? Because right now, we're already trying to figure out the financial literacy, and we don't even have the curriculum, that's our freshman right now. So how do we plan 4 years or, on our IEPs, okay, what year is the best one? And do we have enough teachers, budgeted here to teach this class and trying to figure it all out? I'm at a rural school, I'm not at a big school where we have options. So 2,000 students, you may have multiple teachers in there. So, I hear it. I understand what we're trying to push you, because I do believe computer science is the way to go, because so many things are going AI. We need the students to have that education. But do we have the people that have gotten the education of the teachers to be able to do it, the certification, all of these different,
General knowledge is needed by all students, and I think all people coming in, into the workforce. However, I think computer science is, I've never taken it, I'm totally fine. I know my friends that are doctors have never taken it, they're fine, attorneys. I don't see how this is gonna be helpful for our state students. And I know all of that, but I'm just.
and then the other side of this, we will, have this, we will approve all this, and then it'll be a little bit delayed on the part of education, so then it's, oh, LOSFA did this, and it doesn't align with the education, then later on it'll come about, so then that creates a whole issue when we go to our council collaboration, and they say, well, LOSFA does this for top, but yet, this is not here. Well, sometimes they wait to say that until it's an incoming class, because like Rhonda said, we'll have 8 different, and you'll have it different, but it's also 8 different curriculum. So if a student is going to graduate earlier, they're figure, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do this. There's too many moving parts for a lot of counselors. I've been doing this for 8 years, so I kind of anticipate, but I feel like in the next, for sure, the next 4 to 5 years, it's going to be very complicated on this, and this. And you'll hear one thing, if you go to the website, y'all may have it published, okay, here's the requirements here, but we need this one, here, cohort, cohort and graduation for different things. And then that factors in, and you have early grads, and you have students that didn't quite make it there.
It's a lot of moving parts on counselors. So I feel like it's gonna be a little bit of a educational part from that as well, but we're going with what we're given. And there will be more. So, we need a motion to approve. We need a motion to consider all making some new sections 301-704-80473. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. All right, the next is related to TOPS and NJ Foster exceptions. So consider the request for exceptions to the top regulatory provisions that require students to remain continuously enrolled and to earn the annual credit hours required during the academic year, and to the NJ Foster requirement that a student maintain continuous enrollment in school. And to proceed a list of all of those exceptions in your minutes.
Just as a little background for those who haven't been with us that long. The TOPS statutes allow LOSFA to give exceptions for certain things. We cannot grant exceptions to the initial eligibility requirements except in very limited circumstances, usually having to do with hurricanes or other natural disasters. We can give exceptions to continuing eligibility requirements that are specifically listed, the 24-hour requirement, the requirement that you enroll full-time and maintain continuous enrollment. Again, in college, we cannot give exceptions to the GPA requirement. Students who don't meet the GPA requirement are suspended. If they have TOPS Tech, they have 1 year to bring their grades up. If they are TOPS OPH, they have 2 years. These students, the types of exceptions that come to this body are exceptional circumstances. These are the ones that we can't tell you what documentation is going to be required. We also have some objective circumstances where illness, for example, we know if a student is ill, we need a letter from a doctor saying the student's ill. And we need the doctor to say they couldn't attend school for such and such amount of time. That's objective. You know, the documentation is right there. These are those that are just out of the blue, that we don't have that set list of documentation we know we're going to need, which is why this comes to y'all and then to the Board of Regents. Before it comes here, it is vetted by myself and other members of the legal staff, as well as scholarships and grants and audit and CASC and SE. Pretty much everybody in the agency has a place on this. Right now on the exceptional circumstances committee that is in-house, we have 10 staff members.
Is this a common thing in the situation you're describing? So it's a common thing.
Well, these particular circumstances, they're all different. My favorite example of an exceptional circumstance, a young lady was attending school here in Baton Rouge. She did not live on campus. She lived in a house off campus. And she was renting and had complained 3 or 4 months in a row about ants, carpenter ants. This child sent us her complaints, the pictures of these carpenter ants literally coming out of the tile in her bedroom, in her bathroom, and the ceiling in her bedroom. Could not get it fixed. That is an exceptional circumstance. There is no way that we could even imagine in our wildest dreams that that is going to happen. And that's where these come from. For exceptional circumstances, we probably have between 100 and 120 per year. All of the other types of exceptions that we approve, it runs around 1,200.
These are, the ones that come to you are uncommon. You know, they are subjective. The ones that stay in-house are objective. If you are sick, you have this. If you are, you have this, but the ones that are like, wait, what now? Those are the ones that come through the committee, they come to me, then they come to you, then they go to the Board of Regents.
And so that's the one that always comes to my mind, and as a board, you know, we can approve those, but we may also send, you know, or a formal letter to the system staff of each individual system to let them know, like, we've approved these today, but we would not approve these in the future because there's a conflict in that special population getting special treatment for approval. So there are cases where we will go above and beyond for certain types of exceptions if we see a pattern.
And there's some that start off as exceptional circumstances, and then they become so common that they're like the COVID ones. At first, those were one case at a time. Then it became apparent that, okay, these common things are happening. We're using these same set of documentation requirements. So move that out of exceptional, put that as a circumstance that can be handled in-house, because now it's become more common. So that's kind of how we do it. If it becomes where okay, now this is objective, it's the same thing every time, then it moves out of this category. Yeah, hurricanes became like automatic exceptions in some instances, as long as there was a declaration of disaster in the executive order. So whenever we see the executive orders, like I forwarded a couple within the last to go, oh, this storm, this storm, this storm. So if our legal exceptions team has it, we know if a student from that area says, I couldn't go to school because of this and this, we can look at that executive order and say, okay, this is how we've handled that in the past. This is how we'll handle it this time.
It's earning in credit hours required during the academic year and to the individual cost requirement that a student maintain continuous enrollment in. Right, we have a new kid from. There's a case. In second. All in favor, say aye. Any nays? All right, which carries, thank you. Right.
And our next meeting date will be August 7th. We'll determine if that's gonna be a hybrid, because I know the counselors and some of the schools will be here and back up at that time, so.
Get my schedule, I'll let you know. If I able to attend virtually, if I need to. All right, any other discussion before we adjourn? All right, motion to adjourn. Have a second? All right, got a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries, thank you, guys.
Okay, for lunch today, y'all have a garden salad, a choice of grilled chicken with the